Our bodies are wired around our center of mass to store fat, which happens to be the handles and hips of belly love. And for this, there is a very good explanation. It will take a lot of energy to bring around and do the stuff we need to do on a regular basis to live to store pounds of fat in more distal places such as your hands and your feet. And this defeats, to begin with, the entire biological aim of storing fat, which is basically your body attempting to stock up on nutrition in the form of body fat in the event of possible drought, when there is a food shortage or, in other words, an energy shortage. We can see in sports such as wrestling and judo that our center of mass gives us the strength we need to lift heavy loads of weight without wasting a lot of energy. Your body already knows this naturally. So, that's why your belly is one of the first places to accumulate weight when you overeat. Unfortunately, even though your body is programmed to see this as very successful, the last place most people want to gain weight is not only the stomach region, but it is also very unhealthy to hold massive quantities of fat around your midsection. Now, though your body is fast to store fat around your stomach, letting it go is very hesitant and will typically be one of the last spots from which it pulls fat. So, before it starts pulling energy from the fat stored around your midsection, you need to reduce your total body fat percentage low enough to encourage your body to burn the fat somewhere else. This is mainly done by dieting. Too many times, the more you try to adhere to it, many individuals adopt a rigid diet that becomes more and more difficult. So today I want to give you guys 14 fast guidelines that you can use to start burning as soon as possible body fat and belly fat without torturing yourself in the process. And the very first thing you can do is limit the amount of high-sugar food you consume, which is incredibly successful. Not only does sugar taste good at the moment, but in the future, it makes you crave more sugar. You eventually end up decreasing the sensitivity of your palate when you eat stuff like cookies, ice cream, and cake daily, which makes natural safe sugar sources such as fruit taste much less sweet and satisfying. Some studies indicate a direct correlation between having a high intake of sugar and having higher abdominal fat levels. This is because insulin, which is a fat storage hormone, is spiked by sugar and therefore lowers insulin sensitivity. So it doesn't mean you should never get any desserts at the end of the week that you can reward yourself with things like ice cream. But during the week, it shouldn't be a staple part of your diet. Instead, to fulfill your sweet tooth, you should do your utmost to stick to the fruit. Next, you'll want to stick to the outer edge of the grocery store when you go shopping and avoid the inner aisles for the most part. So this includes fish, poultry, eggs, and some dairy in your produce department. This is because you can usually find all the refined food in the inner aisles that end up raising your insulin levels, increasing your daily calorie count, and naturally leading to fat accumulation around your stomach. Other than high sugar, cereals, chips, and cookies, though, some items in the inner aisles can potentially fill your stomach and help you minimize your body fat, such as rice, quinoa, and nuts. So you want to follow the next tip when you head into the inner aisles, which is to buy mostly single-ingredient foods. These are foods that have a low density of calories, which means they'll only add a comparatively low number of calories to your daily total for the amount of space they take up in your stomach. Comparing Oreos to anything like broccoli is a great example of this. Only one Oreo would have 40 calories, mostly in the form of sugar. You can fill your belly with a whole cup of broccoli for the same amount of calories. Today, in addition to the single ingredient, foods need more calories to be digested. Without much effort, the Oreo can quickly and easily break down into simple sugar. Meanwhile, more energy would be required to break down the broccoli, decreasing the net amount of calories you take in. When comparing many other foods, such as white bread to brown rice, for example, we will see this again and again. In general, a great rule of thumb is to stick to a whole unprocessed single-ingredient natural food that is either frozen with a limited shelf life or must be boiled to eat it. Next, you want the added sugar to look out for. Even at the outer edge of your grocery store, you'll find items like smoothies and juices that appear to be healthy when, in fact, they're just going to help you store body fat and not lose it. That's because you can see that they are full of a lot of additives to help preserve the products and especially full of added sugar to make them more palatable when you take a closer look at these foods and beverages that are sold as safe. You're much better off doing it new on your own by simply tossing in some bananas, vegetables and water into a blender if you want anything like a natural smoothie. This is not only healthy, but it will also make you drink more water all day long. This is the next tip for drinking more water. Most people seeking to burn fat now assume that water can be used to help weight loss and fat loss, so they try to drink lots of water all day long. Many of these same individuals will also continue to snack heavily on high-sugar fat foods such as trail mix during the day, but they will still make sure they get their 8-ounce glasses of water in for the day. The reality is that there is no mystical water property that dramatically increases fat loss. It can speed up your metabolism slightly, but this will save you just about 50 calories a day, and maybe closer to 100 if you only drink cold water, so sticking exclusively to drinking water is a great idea for those of you who have juices and sodas during the day, because this can save you. Water is also one of the healthiest drinks you can consume, since it helps to bring nutrients in your body from the food you eat. Studies have shown that protein helps fill you up and decreases hunger, and another thing you can do right away is increase your protein intake if it is currently low. Another advantage we get for fat loss is that protein requires slightly more energy than carbs and fats to digest. So, if you have a higher protein diet, it will improve your metabolism, often helping you burn hundreds of extra calories per day. On top of that, it's also perfect for muscle building, but eating too much protein will not necessarily offer you any additional benefits. Maximum muscle building effects are reached at about 0.7–2.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, according to the study. So even if eating more than that won't hurt your attempts to lose weight, it could make it more difficult to adhere to your diet plan because it will decrease the amount of carbohydrates and fats you will consume every day. I therefore recommend that you stick to about 8 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day, and have the rest of your calories in the form of carbohydrates or fats. And if you don't know how many calories you can eat per day, you can use the connection to the macro calculator in the following description. Now, as I said earlier, before you can burn belly fat, it will take some time for your body to burn fat from other places for the first time. So, before you begin to see the stubborn belly fat decrease, you need to be consistent for some time. You must obey the next basic rule of making healthy food tastes amazing to remain consistent. Failure is intended for any diet that allows you to eat foods you dislike or cook them in a bland, tasteless way. Don't be afraid to add enough olive oil seasonings and spices to your meals to make them taste better. In the short run, the type of person who pours one droplet of oil on the frying pan will save you some calories. Ultimately, however, a heavy restriction will lead to a long-term binge and failure. It tastes better compared to making nutritious food. The next tip is to allow an occasional cheat meal for yourself, but only after your stomach fills up. Before you go to a restaurant or before you even have a cheat meal at home, you should do this. It will help to take the pressure off your appetite and save you a lot of calories without you having to use a lot of willpower if you have a small high-protein, high-vegetable meal before consuming the things you want. Even if you don't have time to prepare a whole meal, just throw some fruits and vegetables in a blender and it's going to go a long way before you get your cheat meal. The next thing is not to overdo this with alcohol. Since fat is metabolized in the liver, instead of being busy digesting alcohol, you would want your liver to be available for the breakdown of fat. So when you drink alcohol, that's exactly what happens. In order to prioritize keeping the alcohol out of your system, your body significantly delays the fat breakdown. On top of that, certain alcoholic drinks can damage your attempts to lose weight. Drinking beer and wine in abundance, for example, will add just as much sugar as drinking soda to your diet. Go for unflavored liquors like vodka, rum, and tequila if you're going to drink alcohol. Also, make sure to use a calorie-free drink if you want to make a mixed drink or use a chase. The next tip is to consume more soluble fiber since it helps to minimize hunger. By slowing down the digestion of the food you consume, it does this, allowing you to stay fuller for longer. Oats, avocados, and Brussels sprouts are excellent sources of soluble fiber. Note that feeling full and happy on a day-to-day basis is far more likely to contribute to a better outcome in the long run for those of you who are afraid of incorporating even healthier carbs like oats, so you would eventually minimize your calorie intake due to increasing your satiety rather than forcing restrictions. Now, even though most of your belly fat is burned through diet, the correct form of exercise will really help speed things up, and when you're finished, it will help you sustain your performance. In particular, weight training will allow you to burn more calories and create more muscle, which will increase your metabolism and increase your insulin sensitivity, which will be perfect for fat loss once again. Weight exercise will also deplete the glycogen reserves in your body, which means you will have more space to consume carbohydrates as your body will use those carbs rather than your fat cells to replenish the glycogen throughout your muscles and liver. Making sure you get enough sleep is another very important thing to do. For your muscles to heal, sleep is necessary, and it is when you rest and sleep that your muscles develop. Getting enough sleep helps to regulate your hormones, while not getting enough will improve cortisol and lower testosterone, promoting fat gain and loss of muscle. To ensure your body is prepared for fat loss and muscle development, do your best to get at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep every night. You should add some high-intensity interval training once you have your diet and weight training in check to improve fat loss a little more. Only when you reach plateaus and your diet and weightlifting alone are not enough should this be done. If you don't want to change your diet and you want to keep eating the same amount you've been eating, by adding in 115 minutes of high-intensity interval training session a week at a time, you will burn some extra calories. Complete body movements that get the heart rate up, including burpees, squat hops and ropes limbs, should be included in this session. The aim is to work as hard as you can for a brief time of 45 to 60 seconds and follow up with a short break around where you take 30 to 60 seconds off, then repeat for 15 minutes again and again. Without encouraging muscle loss, these full-body aerobic exercises are a perfect way to burn a lot of calories in a limited amount of time. Finally, today's last tip is to set up your diet in a way that will help you eat less without feeling hungry or deprived. For some of you, this might mean that you fast and have a few big meals for the majority of the day. Without having to eat all day long and without having to limit the size of your food all that much, intermittent fasting can be very beneficial for weight loss. The downside, however, is that you do have to go without food for at least 16 hours a day. So while it may work for some, it won't work for some. Others will do much better by managing their appetite during the day with small meals. Bear in mind that the amount of meals you consume every day does not dictate how much weight you are going to lose. So choose the strategy that suits you best. So those are the 14 tips that you can use without insane limitations to start losing belly fat. By following these effective recommendations, for longer, you will be able to stick to a balanced eating plan that will allow you to tap over time into the fat stores around your stomach. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have a bell button, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tap it.